Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am so delighted to introduce my guest today, Prina Shah. Prina has over 20 years of experience of in-house people management roles in the areas of organizational and leadership development, human resources, culture change, and change management. She has her own business as a coach, consultant, and trainer. She is based in Perth, Western Australia, and works globally. Prina develops emotionally intelligent leaders and optimizes company cultures. She offers practical tools and methods to develop strategies that create positive change, develops people, and brings them together. Please join me in welcoming Prina Shah. Welcome, Prina.
Thank you so much. That's a beautiful intro, Tammy. Lovely to be here with you today.
It's great to have you here, and it's so much fun that we figured out how to work out the time difference. So even though this won't air till some time from now, it's Monday night in Boston, and in Perth,
Yes.
Tuesday
It's
morning.
Tuesday morning. Yeah.
So I'm talking to you in the future.
That's it. Crazy, hey?
I don't know why. I always just get a kick out of things like that. But now I can say, you can tell me about the future. There's so many people who always want to know what's going to happen, right? So you can tell me now what's going to happen on Tuesday.
It's a beautiful day. It's going to be a good one, is what I predict for Tuesday. Yes.
Oh, now I can sleep better tonight.
Yep.
So Prina, as you know, Work from the Inside Out, it's all about the journeys that we're on in our careers and how, many of us we started in one place and we've grown and developed and made changes and had twists and turns in our lives. And all of those things have contributed to where we are today. So take us back to some of your earlier years and tell us a little bit about those and how they led you to where you are now.
Absolutely, Tammy. So earlier years, I was a very studious child to the point where when I was very young, I think toddler age, my mum thought, oh my gosh, I can't keep this child at home. So she sent me to kindy quite early on.
Now, kindy, I want to make sure we understand what that is. So kindy, now you grew up in the UK, is that right?
I was born in Kenya.
Oh, you were born in Kenya. Okay, so
yes.
Tell us all about that too.
Okay, so gosh, life in Kenya was really different. So mum sent me to kindergarten early on, and I went to a school which was primarily Indians, and people really focus on the communities there, and they stick within the communities for a safety reason also. So kindergarten, she said that I really thrived from being in a schoolish environment and with other kids and learning and whatnot. So that was my start into the school world, so to speak, which I really loved. And then from there, I've always been, and looking back at it now, I'm in my 40s, looking back in time, I have always been fascinated by people. So the human condition is how I put it. And so when I was young, my family went through a bit of disruption and, it's brought me to where I am now. So my dad was an alcoholic and that was something else, lots of trauma there and lots of life lessons as well, Tammy, in terms of how to build better relationships. And my role within the dynamic of the family as the eldest child, I've got a younger sister, was as a peacekeeper, And I think that has always stayed with me in a form. And I've always been fascinated by people, as I said. So when I eventually went to tertiary education, that was then in the UK, we moved, and I chose to study a degree in sociology and social psychology. Life changed. Oh my gosh.
Was that university or high school or university?
University. Exactly. Yeah. So studying sociology and social psychology was my thing. That just opened my eyes, and it really, as you go through life, Tammy, you see the dots joining.
Yes.
So that was the first time I thought, oh yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be studying. This is what I'm supposed to be learning about. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then, during university time, what do you want to do in terms of work? And
yeah.
I still didn't know. So I went to a careers center, had the interview. They did the psychometric test on me. Yeah. And what it turned out to be is that I would be wonderful working with a lot of people and bringing people together. Aha. That's what I was always doing from my childhood days. So that joined the dots that way as well. And during that time, Tammy, I was torn between, and I did both. So I was really interested in applying for jobs in the market research industry. And then jobs within the human resources industry. So I went for both. And this is all in the UK. And UK days, it was really grueling. So you'd go to assessment centers, you'd have 3-4 days of staying on site and various tests, and super grueling. Anyhow, it turned out that I won a job at British Telecom in the graduate development program for human resources. And Tammy, that was around 400 graduates applied, were interviewed, so they dwindled it down to a number. We were interviewed. There was full-on assessment centers, everyone watching you. People sat all around the room observing, judging, pens and papers and clipboards. And I did it. So I was one of, I think it was around 6 of us who got chosen. So I felt very, very lucky, and it was amazing. So that was my foundation in the corporate world.
Yeah. So tell me, well, obviously I don't know anything about these assessment centers, although it's ringing a faint bell. I interviewed Elisa Barkin, who lives in London, who told me that she took some assessments and that steered her in a different direction. But that was, I think, when she was unemployed in London. But so you went to a career center at the university, but then when you graduated, were these assessments that you took, were those sponsored by the corporations, or was that part of the employment system, or how did that work? Because you said something about going towards market research or HR. So was this like part of the process of applying for employment, that you would compete with these other hundreds of people and then they would do these assessments and then determine who they would bring in to employ them based on these assessments? Is that how it worked?
Boom, you got it. Exactly. So number one, you'd put your application in, then you'd be shortlisted, then you would be invited to these assessment centers, which were 3 or 4 days. And Tammy, oh my gosh,
4 days. Wow.
Yep. As a 20-something-year-old, all eyes are on you. You're on best behavior. It was something else. So during the day, 9 to 5, they would, there'd be various interviews. There'd be various group activities where we'd be observed. And then on top of that, we'd have dinner at night. So evenings, we were also observed in terms of our social skills, our etiquette, things like that. It was full on.
And were you, for example, so was this specifically with British Telecom that you applied to British Telecom. Now, were you applying specifically to HR, or were you just applying to British Telecom and they were deciding where they want you to work? How did that?
I applied specifically for a HR graduate program.
I see. And so, and it was called a graduate program because you were a university graduate and it was like an entry level program where they'd bring you in and then sort of groom you or help you grow into the HR
Exactly.
world.
Exactly. And
Okay.
the program itself, Tammy, was so beautiful in that we had rotations around different parts of the human resources directorate. So I got experience in resourcing. I got experience in generalist HR. I got experience in workforce planning.
Wow.
And then I got experience in talent development and leadership. And I thought, whoa, this is where we're at. So I ended up actually being one of those people who ran the assessment centers in the end. So I was on the other side of the table, which was just so much fun.
I bet. So
it was the best.
Was the graduate program like a certain number of years and then you were then sort of graduated from that and then a regular employee, or how did that? I never heard of anything like this, really.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. So it was a 2-year program where we got our rotations, and then you apply for whatever internally if there's internal opportunities, or you move on and fly.
Yeah.
And I applied for the permanent role in talent development and leadership internally. And then I moved on a few years afterwards. Yeah.
I guess actually this is similar to some companies here in the US do have, management development programs that do this. I've just never heard of it being this sort of grand, let's say, with hundreds of people coming in and them keeping you for days and sort of feeding you and engaging you to that extent. That's pretty amazing.
This was quite the norm back in the day in around the early 2000s in the UK. And all large organizations, Tammy, were really focused on getting the cream off the crop.
Yeah.
It was competitive. It was tough out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they thoroughly assessed you, I tell you. So any top-notch company, any, leading edge company would be doing so. I don't know if they do that anymore, but back in those days, that was the norm.
Yeah. So once you finished your 2 years, you selected what area you wanted to work in most.
Yeah.
And then did they have to evaluate whether they would allow you to work in that area? Were there definitely positions? I mean, could you have gone through those 2 years and then found yourself without something?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly so. So yes, is the answer to that. So there was a job going in the talent development area, which I applied for, and I'd worked in that area. So, it was a normal recruitment process then. It was recruitment 101 by then. Yeah. And I won that job. Yeah. And
well, congratulations.
Thank you. It was a beautiful foundation. That graduate program really set me up.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And it sounds like you still appreciate it to this day.
Absolutely. It set me up.
Yeah. So, I love the idea of, especially if you know that that's an area you want to be in where you really do get that opportunity in kind of a very structured way to get a taste of all those different areas of a particular function like that. That must have been great. And so you stayed for several years at British Telecom.
Yeah, I was there for around 4 years, and then it was time to move on. I actually then moved to Australia. And since moving to Australia, Tammy, I've been working in a field called organizational development, is what they call it here, which works on all of the proactive sides of human resources, where, you focus on the employee experience, let's say, to put it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And all of the wonderful things in relation to ensuring the workplaces are the best that they can be for the internal employee experience, which I love. That's my thing now. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, what made you decide to move to Australia? Was it just something you were curious about, or?
Love. I met a guy. I fell in love with an Australian and I moved over.
I see. Yeah, I've heard stories like that before.
All his fault. Yep. But it was such a good decision. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And so, and did you know that when you moved over there that you wanted to kind of follow the path of organizational development?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes. And the transition was funny, Tammy. So moving from the UK to Australia, the legal system here is quite different from a HR perspective. So I had to really upskill and learn the way of working here as well. It's very different way of working here.
Yeah. What you have to do to get up to speed on that?
I had to learn lots about the legislation. Not that I work too much in the industrial relations space, but from an organizational development perspective, it's always good to know the full remit of HR so that you can be the best organizational development practitioner, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
There was lots of learning. And here, when I worked here, I have had the opportunity to work for some of the best organizations here as well. I feel really lucky career-wise. I've worked for some wonderful big names within state government, within not-for-profits,
and wow,
private organizations as well. So beautiful mix of industries as well, which, you learn so much from working in different industries also.
Mm-hmm. So where did you first land when you got there? Where did you start off?
Landed in Sydney, and my first ever job was with Sydney Water.
With Sydney Water?
Yes, so a utilities company, and that was in the field of organizational development. Yeah.
Wow.
Which was just the best start. Yeah.
So that's it. Well, I guess British Telecom is also, it's kind of a utility, it's a utility as well. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell our listeners a little bit more about what you were doing at Sydney Water and how you kind of took the step from what you were doing at British Telecom to Sydney Water, because I think that organizational development, or in short, a lot of people call it OD.
OD, yes.
I think there's a variety of things that people do in that field. So it'd be interesting to hear what your experience was early on.
So my experience was a funny one in that everything that I was doing in the UK, Australia seemed around 5 years behind. Just in terms of, catching up. So when I landed here, when I won that job, one of the first things I worked on was workforce planning. And it was a very project-based role. So there was, working on recognition programs, working on the internal culture. So it's really varied and very, very rich in terms of upskilling in the Australian sense now, putting a different hat on.
Right.
Yeah. And the work cultures, Tammy, are really different as well.
Yeah.
So in the UK, it was really fascinating from my own experience. So in the UK, work and play are two different things. There's boundaries there.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, work, lots of people are very friendly within the work environment, whereby you're friends socially as well. And that was a different thing for me to grasp, because working in HR, there's always a need to have boundaries, the kind of work that we do in HR. So, that was quite the culture change for me, work-wise, I thought.
So you're saying that in general, people who work together tended to also socialize more together than what you were used to in the UK, but that was even true for people who worked in HR.
Oh, yes, absolutely so.
That must have been a big adjustment then.
Big time. It really, really was. And, so I had to set my own rules. Like, what do I want to do? How do I want to be? Because professionally, it's so important to have those boundaries in the kind of work that we do. So early on, Tammy, I decided that, yes, happy to go for coffees and lunches and whatever during work time. But then I did have the boundary of outside of work time. But in every single job that I've been in within Australia, I have always told my team, I ended up managing people and then, boundaries are even more important.
Right.
Every single job I've been within Australia, I have always stated to my team, I love you guys. If I don't socialize with you, that's because of my thing, and I'm just managing boundaries.
Right.
When I leave this job, when I leave this organization, let's party. Then we can then we can do it. And that's exactly what I've done, you know?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's a very important point what you're making, and it's interesting to hear how it gets handled in different cultures, and especially, but it's particularly important, I think, in HR, because you do end up handling a lot of very sensitive situations, and it really is. It does have some nuance to it. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And your reputation is everything in HR. You know, you're either trusted or you're not.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how I manage my professional brand within the corporate world. And it really worked, you know. Yeah.
So where did you go from Sydney Water?
Yeah, so then I moved to Western Australia in Perth, and I followed the watery theme here as well. And I ended up in OD at the water utilities company here.
Ah, okay.
Of all places, which was just brilliant to work in. And then I've done a lot of work. So I then moved into consulting for the Chamber of Commerce in Western Australia. And that was just beautiful, Tammy, helping small businesses from an OD perspective and reviewing their culture, reviewing their employee experience, and getting them to understand workforce planning it was so rewarding, helping these small businesses and then seeing them thrive as well. You know, that just really, it fed my soul.
I bet. It must have been a nice change too.
It really was a beautiful change from working, you know, internal corporate to actually consulting externally.
Yeah.
And then my manager always used to say to me at that time, Prina, you're going to be a consultant one day. I was like, no, I was just scared, you know, no, not yet. I'm not ready. So after that job, I took a few internal roles to, you know.
After the chamber,
exactly, to grow my career within the human resources area. And I ended up, you know, at the apex of my career as a general manager of people and culture for a not-for-profit, which was just beautiful. And that not-for-profit is still very close to my heart. They do wonderful work.
What was that? What was that organization?
That organization's called Anglicare WA, so Anglicare Western Australia. And they provide all sorts of services, Tammy, to youth, homelessness services, women's shelters, counseling for people who've been affected by domestic violence, sexual abuse, all sorts of stuff. So Tammy, from my perspective, experiencing that workforce, it just opened my eyes. They are the most giving people. They're such a beautiful workforce. Not for profit.
You were the general manager for people and culture. So were you also overseeing other human resource functions there as well?
Yeah, that was the whole gamut of HR, because I thought I'd really specialized in OD. I needed to step back and just, you know, get clean with the other areas of HR now. Just to keep myself fresh. So it was a good challenge, and a challenge it was. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I myself have worked in a lot of those areas too, in not direct service, but in fundraising and administration and policy in some of those same areas that Anglica covered. So I understand why you kind of lit up as you talked about it. I could tell you miss it a little bit. I could tell.
Yeah, beautiful organization. And, you know, you can just see the direct impact to the community that they're serving. And you think, that is just beautiful. Yeah.
So what would you say? And so then, so there were a couple of different organizations in between the Chamber of Commerce and the larger nonprofit. What other kinds of organizations or industries were you touching in between?
Yeah, so in between, or I'll say afterwards. So after Anglicare, I went into state government, and this organization, Tammy, is really cool. So it's called Lottery West, and it is the only lottery, I believe, in the world that is owned by the government.
Huh.
So the intention of this organization, this lottery, is whatever. So you spend money on your lottery ticket.
Yeah.
It's around 33% of whatever you spend goes back to the community. So they then give grants to these not-for-profits.
Oh.
And I was like, yes, it spoke to my values.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So that was gorgeous. And that was in OD. I stepped back into the OD world there.
Did. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Was that the last role you had before you went off on your own, or?
Correct. So I hit the apex of my career within government. I had a few secondments, in other government agencies, which was just beautiful as well.
Yeah.
But that was my last. And I thought, okay, now I've hit it here. What do I want to do now, Tammy?
Yeah.
It turned out government, there's a lot of red tape as well. And I ended up writing just a lot of memo land, which just did not feed my creative brain.
Yes.
And thinking back at my career as well, like what did I enjoy? So I got myself a coach actually, Tammy, because I was at this crossroads where do I continue on here?
Yeah.
Or do I now foray into the world of consulting as my own boss?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did, a whole pros and cons list, skills audit, the skills audit. And then have you heard of the concept of ikigai, the Japanese concept of finding your...
Yeah. Yeah.
I did ikigai on myself.
Yeah.
What do I love? What does the world need? What can I get paid for? So I did all of that on myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up deciding to become my own boss.
Yeah. And now how long has it been since you've been your own boss?
Yeah, it was since August last year. So nearly 6 months. But as I was working, Tammy, I was always working part-time. And part-time, I was building this business.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think a lot of people have done things that way. I know when I started my coaching practice, I was still working while I was.
You need to, don't you?
Yeah.
It's practical. Yeah. So I love the best of both, and I thought now is the time. And this was all during COVID as well, Tammy.
Right.
The first round of COVID that we had.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've really, since being my own boss, I've worked on culture surveys for organizations, looking at the employee experience, coaching, lots of coaching, a heap of leadership development, supporting newly formed teams or enhancing teams which are a little bit toxic. I've presented at staff conferences on, topics such as change and how to address change, how to deal with change. So I have had such a ride so far, Tammy.
Sounds like fun.
Very much so. Definitely. Yeah.
Are you finding that the organizations that you're working with are pretty much still in the same sort of mission-driven or service-oriented kinds of organizations?
Very good question. Very much so.
Yeah.
So they're very aligned to my values and giving back to the communities. Well, the majority actually of the organizations that I'm working with are doing exactly that. Yes.
Yeah. And how do your clients find you, or how do you find them?
Okay. So a few ways. So I'm on LinkedIn. I've got my Instagram account, all of that kind of stuff. But then living in Perth, it's quite a small world here. So the Perth.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Perth scene is very much word of mouth and recommendations, referrals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Globally, I've got a beautiful global network as well, Tammy, because I think it's too risky putting all of your eggs in one basket just within Perth. And, I want to challenge myself as well.
Right.
So globally, people find me via, whatever I do online, via LinkedIn, Instagram. I've got a newsletter that I send out each month where I share lots of great information as well.
Oh, wonderful.
So people should really sign up to that if they haven't, and they really should.
Well, we'll make sure that all of that gets into the show notes so that people will know how to find you, your website, and your Instagram and your LinkedIn links and things like that. So people will definitely know how to find you and learn more about what you're up to. There's no doubt about that. I'm intrigued by your journey because it's You've worked in a variety of organizations, but it seems like no matter what you've done, you've always stayed connected, it seems like, to your values and who you are. Like, I think that's kind of unique because, I mean, yes, there are people who've had careers in HR and have moved from one place to another. And, if you looked at the surface of it, you might say, oh, okay, so she's been in HR. But I think what strikes me, at least, is that you really reached, in each place you went, there was a real deep connection to what you were doing and who you are as a person. You didn't, because I think a lot of people throughout their careers hit a job or a place where there wasn't such a great match, or they took a job for the money, or they took something, that wasn't a great match with their values. And it seems like, at least based on what we're talking about here, that for the most part, I mean, I'm sure there were some jobs that, were better than others for one reason or another, but it does seem like you've really stayed true to your values through your whole career.
I have thought long and hard about that one also, Tammy. And I always, when I'm coaching people, I always say that the interview process is a two-way process. And I apply that to myself as well.
Absolutely.
So I have to practice what I preach. And I've done that throughout my career. So I only, when, I was in the corporate world, I only applied for jobs that spoke to me. There's sexy jobs everywhere. And I can go for the money. I can go for this or that. But what I went for is, what is going to feed my soul? What is going to feed my bank account also?
Right.
Two big questions there. Yeah. Right. Not just the bank account related, because I think, and, also working in corporate, there has to be something that you get from it as well.
Right.
Something deeper. And especially when you work with people and you're giving so much of yourself as well, from that kind of job.
Right.
It has to be the right kind of exchange, let's say.
Yeah.
And I talk about this concept of a psychological contract, Tammy, which there was a psychologist long ago in the 1930s, I think, they wrote about this concept of a psychological contract. And before I even accept a job or before I even apply for it, I think, can I have a psychological contract with you? Beyond the money, beyond all of the good stuff that's on, our paper contract.
Yeah.
Can we do this?
Yeah.
So I think that's always been a big thing for me, Tammy. Yes.
So in thinking about making transitions, you've made several. What would be your best piece of advice to somebody who's in the process of making their own transition? Maybe perhaps they're maybe feeling a little stuck, or they're not quite sure what's next, but they need maybe a little guidance or a little coach-like advice. What would be a good piece of advice from your experience to suggest?
Yeah, I think many people are in that quandary, especially given the way of the world at the moment. And some people are stuck, or some people have got opportunities. So one thing I always share with my coachees, Tammy, is if you're ever unsure, step back, step out of your own head. And I highly recommend doing the Ikigai activity. You can Google it yourself, or if people want to contact me, I'll share a sheet with them, whatever. But step back and ask yourself the big questions. What am I good at? What does the world need? And what can I get paid for?
Yeah.
I think that's a tough activity to do. But for myself, that has been the one that has got me through, career-wise. Definitely so. And it's just good to check in on yourself, check in on yourself.
Yeah.
So that you're not a silent passenger. That's the other thing. You want to curate your own life and your own career. And that's how I've done it, Tammy.
Yeah. Good advice.
Thank you.
Prina, thank you so much for being here. All your contact information will be in the show notes. I really appreciate you being here today and jumping ahead a day.
Time travel.
Time travel with me today.
Yes.
So thanks for being here today.
Thank you for your
tomorrow or whatever.
I loved it. Thanks, Tammy.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Prina Shah. It was so interesting to speak with her to learn about her personal and professional journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources or links mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them on the blog page of my website at tammygulerloeb.com. Just look for episode 132. Are you thinking about your next professional move? Perhaps you're feeling a little stuck. Get specialized group and individualized support, insights, and accountability from a brilliant mix of professional women in a safe, non-judgmental creative space. Join one of my small, hybrid mastermind coaching groups starting on a rolling basis. You can learn more at https://bit.ly/navigating career change. If you were inspired by this episode with Prina, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I'd love to read your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find through my website at tammygulerloeb.com/podcast. Just click on the Apple Podcast button and follow the instructions provided there. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.